Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Jonathon Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation Podcast Beyond.
Beyond. Hey, Damon.
Hello there. And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox Podcast Unlocked.
Happy March, Damon.
Happy March. It is March indeed. Time to take a look at all the new games that are coming out this month. And specifically for this show, we're going to be looking at the next gen games that are coming out this month. And there actually are quite a few. I think we've got a nice round 10 games that are coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X this month. So consider this your little preview of what you can play on your new gen consoles throughout the remainder of March 2022. Let's get right into it. Jonathon, by the time this episode goes up, I believe Gran Turismo 7 will be out there in the wild. IGN's review is already up. We give it a 9 out of 10. And I guess that answers the question of whether or not Gran Turismo can stay relevant. It's been feels like a long time since we got the last Gran Turismo. And in recent years, Forza, both Motorsport and Horizon, have really dominated the racing game space. So I don't know. Are you surprised at the warm reception Gran Turismo 7 seems to be receiving?
I don't know about surprised. I think I'm happy to hear it because I do know that Gran Turismo Sport was sort of both literally and somewhat metaphorically felt like a detour for some fans, or straying away from the course that had been created by the rest of the franchise. But that was the only Gran Turismo game in the life of the PS4, and so where fans were used to getting 2 or even 3, in quicker succession. It's been a long time. And so to hear that GT7 is as good as Luke says it is, and Luke is certainly, we talked about it on Podcast Beyond this week, not with Luke yet, but sort of talked about how when you think about racing games, you go to Luke Riley for the opinion on it. So I'm very happy to hear Luke loves it. He is a huge, longtime Gran Turismo nut. Like, he adores that franchise and has memories of it going all the way back to the original PlayStation, and such a deep wealth of knowledge for that franchise. So to hear he loves it as much as he does, I think is a really good sign for the launch of that game.
And Ryan, I know you're a big fan of the Forza games. Does Gran Turismo 7 interest you?
It does, because it represents my my garage, both past and present. Tesla and DeLorean represented in GT7, which the Tesla is not. There are no Teslas in Forza. But yeah, no, it's great to have a new GT. It's always great to have a new awesome AAA super polished driving game. So I'm looking forward to diving in. I've done just a few races in it so far, but I am looking forward to playing a lot more.
So Gran Turismo 7, big PlayStation exclusive. It's out now. We have to wait a couple more weeks before we get the next, the next gen games. But then once they start coming, they have a really a rapid cadence throughout the rest of the month. So March 15th, the long-awaited next-gen versions of Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online finally arrive. Ryan, I know you're a huge fan. Is it time for you to dip back in, play Grand Theft Auto 5 again?
Yeah, both of them I haven't really played since launch. Of course, GTA Online, if you remember back to launch, Damon, you and I are old enough to remember when that came out. It was a disaster. It was, and today it's this thriving, just jam-packed with content. There's all the online missions. There's so much stuff in it. And I just, the nature of our jobs, I'm always on to the new thing. And I'm looking forward to diving back into online, but also the campaign itself. I've had the itch to go back to the campaign since I got the Series X. I thought, you know what, man, I want to play some GTA, but I decided to wait for the proper next-gen version. And so, yeah, it'll be good to run it again at 4K with 60 frames. On a nice, I've got a new TV since I might be 1 or 2 TVs newer since GTA originally came out. So yeah, I actually am legitimately excited to take a run through it again, because in my opinion, I've said this on many shows, but I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is one of the greatest games ever made. So I want to play more.
Well, it is the most profitable entertainment thing ever released. And it's been almost 10 years since it was originally released. So I also like the idea of revisiting it. However, I'm currently playing 2 other open world games right now, Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring. So I don't know. I might have to wait till a lull in big open world releases before I jump back into GTA 5. Jonathon, how about you?
Yeah, I most likely will wait for that lull. You know, at least on PlayStation, they've been giving away, I think it's 1 million GTA Online bucks every month since they announced it. So I've been accruing those, and I hope that's useful. I never touched GTA Online, so I don't know at this point. But I'm excited to jump in. I really didn't actually play much of GTA 5 when it launched because I was in college, and open world games did not take my focus at that time because I wanted to do other things. But so I'm excited to play GTA 5 finally all the way through. But like you, I'm probably going to wait. I'm still playing Horizon. I'm playing Elden Ring. The Cyberpunk next gen versions also came out, you know, just a little bit ago. So there is a lot of open world goodness to play, but I can only do so much at one time.
Well, Ryan, another long-awaited game arriving this month, although admittedly lower profile than GTA 5, is Tunic, the Zelda-like game from, I believe it's a one-person developer that we've seen it at E3s for years now, and it's kind of like a darling of IGN that we've been really looking forward to. And now it's finally coming out March 16th.
I liken this in a sense, not the game itself, but you were alluding to kind of the hype cycle and how we've just been seeing it over and over. And the audience gets a little tired of it. Like, yeah, this game looks great. And then when you just show the same demo again and again and again at each new trade show or convention, the interest dies down. But another game that had that same thing was Cuphead. And Cuphead turned out to be an incredible game that we all love and adore. And I'm really hoping for the same with Tunic. I mean, we've had playable demos. That's the difference between Tunic and Cuphead. So I already have a pretty good sense that Tunic's probably going to be really good. It's just a question of, how deep does it go and how cool and Zelda-ish is it in the end? But I'm really looking forward to playing that game after all these years. And it's Tunic himself or herself. I don't know if the Tunic the fox is adorable. So hopefully the gameplay matches up.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one. And then Jonathan, on the PlayStation 5 side, there's another little bit smaller game, Anno Mutationum. Is this one on your radar?
It is. I think it showed up at either a State of Play or at one of their sort of indie showcases they do at the PlayStation blog a little while ago. And it's looked very cool. It's sort of, this like 2.5D pixel cyberpunk aesthetic, not cyberpunk the game, but sort of that cyberpunk noir kind of world and look. And I think it's an action adventure RPG. It's kind of been one of those, like, I love the look of it. I just want to jump into it because I think it's one of those games where too many trailers, I might kind of be like, oh, I feel like I've seen the game, but it looks really cool. It looks really interesting and unique in sort of the 2.5 2D space right now for what I've been playing. So I'm looking forward to it. It seems like a really cool one for the PlayStation crowd to keep the month rolling.
Yeah, it's got that really, really high-end pixel art, which I'm a big fan of. And that one's out March 17th. And then the following day, March 18th, is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, a game I hadn't thought of since it was revealed at E3 last summer. And this is the action RPG that's a retelling of the original Final Fantasy NES game. And then I think there was a sort of a goofy response to the reveal trailer because there was like a lot of screaming about chaos. Is that right? I remember that right?
Chaos is the end-all be-all of this game. Yes, absolutely. Also in a later trailer, they used My Way by Frank Sinatra. It's been an interesting PR rollout. Like, the trailers have been very interesting for sure. But I know a lot of people, especially on staff included, are really excited for this one. It's, I believe, Souls-like. It's taking some, different liberties and introducing some new ideas and mechanics. I think it's very co-op friendly. I think up to 3 players can play together. It looks really cool for people who've been into it. I tried the demo and enjoyed what I played, but it was kind of one of those, again, where I was like, I played the demo. I don't want to play the second demo because I just want to see what the full game is like.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised there isn't more marketing around that one. It's a new Final Fantasy spin-off game. But I don't know. We'll see how that turns out on March 18th. Ryan, on March 24th, former Xbox console exclusive The Ascent comes to PlayStation 5 and 4. How did you end up feeling about that one?
Gave it a 7. Really enjoyed that game. It is, it does what it sets out to do, which is to be a cyberpunk style dungeon crawler. Except it's not so much a dungeon crawler as it is a sort of top-down shoot 'em up. I mean, you're using guns the whole time, and I had a great time with it. It looks gorgeous. They absolutely nailed the aesthetic. It's a good length, the game. It's not like just hundreds of hours, but it's not like a little 4 or 5 hour small project either. There's some meat on the bone there, and I had a really good time with it, and so I'm happy to see that PlayStation fans are going to get a chance to take a shot at it.
And then on March 25th, 2 big games come out that day. The big PlayStation 5 console exclusive GhostWire Tokyo is finally out. Jonathon, how are you feeling about that one?
Ever since we got the hands-off preview coverage of it and sort of that deep dive on the gameplay, I've been really, really excited. I've been hopeful for this one, but it's, this is one of the 2 Bethesda PlayStation console exclusives that are coming after Xbox acquired them. We've almost had a reverse of Deathloop, where Deathloop appeared at every conference, and GhostWire has really only had 1 or 2 appearances at most. But there's a really cool blend of, I think, some interesting open world ideas here, a very interesting magic combat sort of system they have set up here, and just a lot of really charming and scary and spooky but engaging character and enemy design and world design there. I'm really, really hopeful for this one. They also put out a visual novel sort of prequel on PlayStation for free this past week that I'm going to jump into to get a little bit more of the story in the world. But I love what that studio's done. I thought The Evil Within was a really, really excellent sort of vibe and approach to a horror game there. So I'm curious to see what they do in this mode.
Yeah, everybody should take a look at the video preview on IGN or on youtube.com/IGN. I'm with Jonathon. This game, I love when developers do just weird stuff in first person as opposed to just another typical first person shooter. And this game definitely falls into that category. It's, in particular, I love when Japanese game developers try first person out, because I feel like it doesn't happen that often. And when it does, you get really just unique stuff. Like, I always go back to the prototypical example is the cult classic Breakdown for the original Xbox. Wow. And and Ghostwire really has its own style and flair and gameplay loop too. So yeah, that one's going to be worth playing for sure, I think, from what I've seen so far. And presumably Xbox gamers will get it on Game Pass in like a year or so.
One year after, yeah.
Well, Ryan, Xbox gamers will have something else to play that same day, because Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is out the same day as Ghostwire Tokyo. And was it Seth that previewed that one for us, Ryan?
Yeah, we just finished up an entire month of IGN First exclusive coverage where we did kind of a big deep dive throughout the month on the game, various aspects of it. We interviewed Ashley Birch and we did a hands-on preview. We showed some gameplay that had never been seen before. And I'll tell you, this is a little sacrilege, but I've never been a big Borderlands guy, even though I love action RPGs and I love first-person shooters. But something about it just never clicked with me. But there's everything I'm seeing about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It almost reminds me a little bit of, again, I'm just going to openly date myself here. Why not?
Sure.
Hexen, because it's like a first-person, sort of magic using magic weapons game, and it's it's got that beautiful art style that we know and love from Borderlands, but with a different kick. It's not just there are guns, but there's guns and magic. So I'm really intrigued by this. I'm looking forward to giving it a shot.
Yeah, I am too. I was a big Borderlands 2 guy, but then Borderlands 3 kind of fell flat for me. But I liked Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep that came out several years ago. So interested to check to take Wonderlands for a spin. And then finally, our final next-gen game release this month on March 29th, Crusader Kings 3 comes to both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And this one's notable because it was out on PC last year and got a 10 out of 10 from IGN. And it is a very hardcore historical strategy game. I don't know much more about it beyond that. Ryan, Jonathon, either of you have any experience with Crusader Kings 3?
Not a big strategy player myself, yeah, but... Cool. But we need more good strategy games on consoles for players that do enjoy the genre. Like, and there are just frighteningly few of them.
Yeah, I am a big strategy fan. It'll just be interesting to see how like a big hardcore PC game like this translates to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'll be interested to check it out. And I also want to shout out, since it's not a next gen game, but Triangle Strategy is out this month on Nintendo Switch, and I'm very excited for that.
2D HD is my favorite new visual art style. I love it so much. I want it to be done with like every game.
Yeah. Remake all the classics in 2D HD. There you have it. 10 next-gen games you can play this month on your PS5 and Xbox Series X. I'd like to know what you're most excited for, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Now, Ryan, you were just saying a little bit ago, you like it when Japanese developers try first-person. Yes. And that's exactly what Capcom did with Resident Evil 7 a few years back on PS4 and Xbox One. Did you ever play that one?
Yeah, it's spooky, and it's.
Oh yeah,
I love that series went first person. I loved Village 2 last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is some good times, and I think you've got some good news for us on that front.
Yeah, we actually just found out this week that Capcom will be releasing next-gen upgrades, free next-gen upgrades if you already own the last-gen games for Resident Evil 7, and then the remakes of both Resident Evil 2 and 3, which are also excellent. All excellent games that we're getting free next-gen versions of. I'd be very excited. I'll probably revisit all these when I get a chance. I've been revisiting all these games that are getting the next gen upgrades like God of War and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Ghosts of Tsushima. So it's nice to, it's just a perfect excuse to revisit great games. Jonathan, how about you?
Oh yeah, I've been dipping in a lot whenever we see these come up, and I actually never finished RE2 Remake because Mr. X scared me too much. I got stuck in some room, and he, like, if I walked outside, I just instantly died, and I just couldn't handle the anxiety. So I wanted to go eventually back to it, and this feels like the perfect excuse. But yeah, 3 Remake and 7 are also great in their own rights in different ways. So it's a good excuse to revisit all 3 of those.
Don't tell Jonathan that his save game is still going to be right.
I mean, I'm going to delete it. It'll be like it never happened.
Well, unfortunately, we don't know exactly when the next gen upgrades will be out. Capcom just said later this year. So I don't know. Halloween seems like a pretty good time to me to revisit some of these. Before we go, this episode, we have the results of our poll from last episode. We were talking about the Steam Deck. We had a designer from Valve on to talk about the launch of this new portable device. And we asked you where you are in line if you've pre-ordered a Steam Deck, because you still can't just buy one. Ryan and I are both on a wait list for after Q2, so the back half of the year. And the winning response was that with almost 57% of the votes was, I don't plan on pre-ordering. And Ryan, I wonder if this is surprising to you, because we don't know exactly how many units they've sold of Steam Deck so far. However, Valve has said that they've been pleasantly surprised with the interest in it and how many units they have sold. So I don't know. How do you sort of reconcile those two numbers together?
Well, we know for a fact from previous polls from this show and on IGN that our audience is still having a very difficult time trying to get PS5s and Series X's.
Sure.
So it is entirely possible that the Steam Deck is just lower on a lot of people's priority lists as far as gaming hardware than finding themselves a next-gen console first. And that could explain why a number of respondents said that they're not going to bother pre-ordering this thing.
Yeah. I'm still really interested in it. I still really want to get one. Of those that have pre-ordered it, 13% said they're in line for Q2. And then 11% said they're after Q2, like Ryan and myself. So be patient. Hang in there, everyone. We'll get those. Hopefully we'll get those Steam Decks before it's 2023. Before we go, we've got a poll for you to vote on for next episode. We want to know, of these next-gen games coming out this month, March 2022, which one are you most excited for? Gran Turismo 7, GhostWire Tokyo, next-gen GTA 5. Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we'll share the results with you next episode. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. Thank you to Alan working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. We'll be back next Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, with more PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.